I call this meeting of the Northeast Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present to my right and my left, that this meeting has been duly called and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code Chapter 551. The board will now adjourn into executive session pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meetings Act. Texas Government Code Section 551.071, private consultation with the board's attorney. 551.072, discussing purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property, and 551.074, to discuss personnel or to hear complaints against personnel. The time is 5:31. All right. Okay. Thanks, Ed. Thank you. The board will now reconvene into open session. The time is 6:32. Welcome, everyone. On behalf of the trustees, I would like to welcome all of you to this evening's meeting of the Northeast Independent School District Board. This is a business meeting of the board held in public. We appreciate your attendance and request your respectful attention. We welcome your comments during matters from the floor section of the agenda. If you have signed up to address a specific action agenda item, you will be called at that time. I would like to remind all of you that it is the mission of Northeast to challenge and encourage each student to achieve and demonstrate academic excellence, technical skills, and responsible citizenship. Next item.
5, Invocation and Pledge of Allegiance. A, Eisenhower Middle School, John Smith, Principal.
Mr. Smith.
Good evening, President Bresnahan and members of the board, Dr. Gottardy, members of the executive staff, and guests. It is my pleasure to introduce two of our outstanding students from Eisenhower Middle School, both 8th graders. We have Cindy Chung and Aldo Ramirez. Both students represent the Ike Generals and what we strive for from all our generals at Eisenhower. I'd like to highlight a few of Cindy's accomplishments, both in and out of school. Cindy, in 5th grade, attended Larkspur Elementary and represented her school at the superintendent's luncheon, so I'm sure Dr. Gottardy remembers her. She is involved in our UIL academics since the 6th grade. She is part of our orchestra program, who has been very busy visiting all of the feeder elementary schools this week and performing for them for their festivities. She's been playing violin since 5th grade. And she is also a member of our National Junior Honor Society, a current student council treasurer, formerly our council historian, PALS, and in the GT program from Eisenhower Middle School. Also, we have here with Cindy is her parents, Tiong Chung and Jennifer Tran. I'd also like to highlight a few of Aldo's accomplishments, both in and out of schools. He has attended Castle Hills Elementary in kinder through 3rd grade. He did move out of the district, but he got back to Northeast as quickly as he could. And he has been attending Eisenhower Middle School in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. He enjoys math and science. He recently got 102 on his pre-AP algebra test.
Oh boy.
He enjoys playing basketball with friends. He's currently enrolled in our advanced art class and our technology classes and enjoys working on web pages. He intends to continue tech track through high school at Roosevelt High School. Aldo is also here with his mother, Maria Ramirez, and grandmother, Maria Hernandez.
Wonderful.
Cindy, would you do the honor with leading us for the thought for the evening, and then Aldo will do our pledge to the American flag.
And Mr. Smith, if the two students could stay at the podium and so we can visit with them before we move on to the next item.
Good evening, Dr. Gottardy, executive staff, board of trustees, family, friends, and community. It has been an honor to be chosen to give you this evening's invocation. I offer today's thoughts in recognition of many educators, administrators, and staff members that have paved the path to my success and served as my past, present, and future. NEISD has made a tremendous impact on my life and provided me with a deep sense of pride, hope, and accomplishment. Specifically, my goal is to attend Stanford University, and I believe my dynamic partnership with the district's core beliefs has created my vision for ultimate commitment. I I leave each school year grateful for what I've learned, ready to accept the next challenge, and eager for all the possibilities that await. Thank you for your time and attention. I don't think you realize how many children's lives you've touched. On behalf of all of them, I thank you. Everybody, please rise.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
So, Ms. Chung, what do you do in UIL academics? What's your favorite?
Dictionary, because it's the easiest. You just flip through a dictionary. And math is my second.
And will you be going to Churchill High School next year?
Yes,
And will
hopefully.
you be in the orchestra?
Of course.
And so what piece is your favorite?
I don't know.
What piece to play? What piece do you enjoy playing with the
There's
orchestra?
too many.
I'm sure you're wonderful. Well, we are also proud of you. Students like you make us very proud to be on this board. So back at you, and thank you for being proud of being a Northeast student. It means a lot to us.
Thank you.
And Aldo, tell us about what you're learning in pre-AP algebra.
We're learning about linear equations.
Great. Have you learned the quadratic formula yet?
Yeah,
And who is your algebra teacher at Eisenhower?
Mr. Eden.
Mr. Eden. Wonderful. And you like to play basketball?
Yeah.
Are you on the team there?
No.
You play with your friends?
Yeah.
Well, we're very proud of you also, and thank you for being a student at Eisenhower, and you all take care of Mr. Smith. All the best, and Miss Wolff is going to present you both with some certificates, and to the families, we're so thrilled that you're here to be with us, and thank you for being part of Northeast. And you're free to stay, and you're free to leave. Oh yeah, finals. You should probably go. Thanks for reminding me. Next item.
6, matters from executive session. A, personnel, including but not limited to administrative appointments pursuant to Government Code, Section 551.074. 1, possible action regarding routine personnel, including but not limited to administrative appointments.
Do I have a motion on routine personnel as presented in closed session?
I move we approve personnel as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Perkins. Thank you, Mrs. Wolff. There can be no discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. The motion carries. Next item.
2, possible action regarding proposed recommendation for termination of Chapter 21 term contract employee.
Do I have a motion?
That was
Didn't,
no action.
I mean, no action. Sorry, thank you. Next item.
3, principal of Tex Hill Middle School.
Do I have a motion to approve the principal of Tex Hill Middle School as discussed at executive session?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Grona. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. White. There can be no discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. The motion carries. Next item.
4, principal of Fox Run Elementary School.
Do I have a motion to approve the principal of Fox Hill Elementary School, Fox Run Elementary School, as discussed in executive session?
So moved.
Thank you. Do you have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Grona. Was Mrs. Wolff, did you make the
I
motion? Okay. There can be no discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. The motion carries. Next item.
5, introductions.
Dr. Gottardy.
Thank you, Madam President, board members, ladies and gentlemen.
We'll bring back these people at the next regular board meeting for a formal introduction, but I would like to at least make the announcement tonight that the new principal of Tex Hill Middle School is Mrs. Julie Shore. And the new principal for Fox Run Elementary School is Mrs. Kimberly Oruela. Now, we do have some introductions to make tonight. We have a new Executive Director of Adult and Community Education, Mr. Rudy Jimenez. Is Rudy here? There he is. Rudy joined the Northeast family in 2004. Prior to being named Executive Director of Adult and Community Education, he was the principal at Tex Hill Middle School. Mr. Jimenez received a bachelor's degree in biology in 1995 and earned a master's degree in educational administration in 2002 from the University of Texas at Austin. Mr. Jimenez has 19 years in education. Congratulations, Rudy. We have a new director of our guidance services, Mrs. Natalie Herhoser. Natalie joined the Northeast family in 1985. Prior to being named Director of Guidance Services, she was a counselor at MacArthur High School. Ms. Herhoser received a bachelor's degree in elementary education in 1985 from Southwest Texas State University. Additionally, she earned a master's degree in counseling in 1991 from Southwest Texas as well. Ms. Herhoser has 29 years in education. Congratulations, Natalie. A new Director of New Talent and Evaluations in our Human Resources Department, someone that we welcome back to Northeast Independent School District, Ms. Sylvia Hoyer. There she is. Sylvia is joining the Northeast family as the Director of our New Talent and Evaluations in our HR department. Before joining Northeast ISD, she was a Program Coordinator for the Education Service Center, Region 20. Ms. Hoyer received a bachelor's degree in elementary education in 1985 from Texas A&M University in Kingsville. Additionally, she earned 2 master's degrees, one in curriculum and one in instruction in 1994, and one in educational leadership in 1999 from the University of Texas at San Antonio. Ms. Hoyer has 30 years in education. Congratulations and welcome back. Thank you, Sylvia. We have a new principal at East Trail Hills Elementary School. She's been on the job probably close to a month now, Mrs. Jennifer Gutierrez. Jennifer is joining the Northeast family as the principal of East Trail Hills Elementary. Prior to joining Northeast ISD, she was a professional development administrator at Newhall School District. I believe that was in California. Mrs. Gutierrez received a bachelor's degree in liberal studies in 2000 from California State University, Northridge. Additionally, she earned a master's degree in education in 2001 and a master's degree in administration and educational leadership in 2005, both from Pepperdine University. Ms. Gutierrez has 14 years in education. Congratulations, Jennifer. We have a new assistant principal at Reagan High School, Mr. Joseph Holtzman. Joseph joined the Northeast family in 2010. Prior to becoming an assistant principal at Reagan High School, he was an assistant principal at Wood Middle School. Mr. Holtzman received a bachelor's degree in physical education in 1996 from the University of the Incarnate Word. Additionally, he earned a master's degree in educational leadership in 2007 from the University of Texas at San Antonio. Mr. Holtzman has 13 years in education. Congratulations, Joseph. And to replace him at Wood Middle School, we have a new assistant principal, Mr. Stephen Santos. Stephen joined the Northeast family in 2006. Prior to becoming the assistant principal at Wood Middle School, he was a teacher at Wood Middle School. Mr. Santos received a bachelor's degree in political science and history in 1987 from Texas State University, San Marcos. Additionally, he earned a master's degree in educational administration in 2011 from Concordia University, Texas. Mr. Santos has 18 years in education. Congratulations, Stephen. That concludes our introductions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Gottardy, and to all of our newly hired principals and assistant principals all the best. And we really depend on all of you. And please don't ever forget how much our families and our students look to you for your leadership and your guidance. It's so important. So good luck, and you know that we're here if we need any of you. And to Mr. Jimenez, also congratulations, and to our new counselor. That's really exciting. Lots of people depend on both of you as well. So I know you'll make us proud. Next item.
B, possible action on the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property pursuant to Government Code Section 551.072.
No action.
C, possible action regarding consultation with board's attorney pursuant to Government Code Section 551.071. 1, possible and pending litigation.
No action.
7, presentations. A, NEISD class of 1957.
This is exciting. Dr. Newman.
Thank you,
Yeah.
President Bresnahan, members of the board, Dr. Gottardy, executive staff, and guests. I would like to ask Karen Funk, our Executive Director for Athletics, to approach the podium and address this item.
Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Gottardy, executive staff, and guests. We have a presentation tonight in maybe the class of 57. It sounds good because I think there's a song named after that, but it's really from all of the classes at Northeast High School. Several members from Northeast High School have worked diligently to preserve the history and flavor of the district between the years of 1951 and 1958. Mr. Jake Cherry, graduate of 1957, spearheaded a group of 7 classmates to find pictures, articles, capture oral and written history of Northeast High School to bind into a book called Remembrances. The main mission of this group was to preserve the history of the original high school and to provide a reference for educators today and tomorrow, as well as to capture the spirit and the humble beginnings of Northeast High School. Mr. Cherry and his group met several times at Blossom to work on this project, and they shared numerous stories with all of us from the early days. It was wonderful for our staff to meet with them and to hear all the history and some of the shenanigans that happened. And we'll leave it just that way. Mr. Cherry and several members of the committee are here this evening and would like to present the board members and the executive staff with their own personal copy of Remembrance.
That was wonderful.
In addition, Mr. Pete Martinez, principal at MacArthur, Ben Cook, athletic coordinator, and Janelle Schnock. Please tell me I got it right. Yes? Good. MacArthur's librarian, so that they can always have a place to have the history present at that school. Mr. Cherry, I'm going to ask to come up at this time and to make a few remarks and then deliver the books along with all of his group. I cherish mine, and to be quite honest, I read all of it. It's good. And I know you will as well. Mr. Cherry?
Merry Christmas, everyone. I hope we can get these matters behind us and look forward to the celebration of our Lord's coming. We have this present for you, and we're going to give it to you right now. So, group, please deliver it. While they're doing this, I've been told I could speak 5 minutes or 3 hours. And I'm going to err on the side of discretion here. We want you to enjoy this, and as Karen said, we think it captures a lot of the era. There was a Happy Days, you know.
Of course.
And
Thank you
so
so much. What a pleasure. Thank you.
we know with the growth and the busyness of all school districts, especially the explosion the boomer group created in this country. I think that when that hit, school district was happy to keep the buses running and the electricity on for the day. They'd had a pretty good day. And so we think that this is Stanley Clayton. His father was the first superintendent of the Northeast School District.
Oh, my goodness. Wow.
He'll do anything for a hand. I didn't expect him to jump up and run up there. So anyway, hopefully this will enrich the history of our wonderful school district. And we're turning the baton over to you leaders to try to help that happen, and where that first 8 years is a little bit better represented in the history. Thank you. And any questions from anyone?
Mr. Cherry, actually, my mother was a student at Incarnate Word College in the 50s, and her first job was a student teacher at Northeast High School.
Really?
And she said she can remember that the kids would come with their horses to school. So you may have had her. She was a geometry teacher, but she did her student teaching there, and she loved it.
I think that was the older group.
I think she graduated in 54, but I can't remember.
Yes? Well,
But she talks about it very often and what an experience it was, because she was from Laredo.
Yeah.
Very few girls came up to school here from Laredo, Texas.
yeah,
And she had that opportunity.
yeah.
And speaks about it,
Yeah.
not so much anymore, but she did for many, many years.
Well,
So I'll
Bill-
have
Bill-
to show it to her. And
Allison graduated with her, so you need to tell
Oh,
her that. Yeah.
I will.
Uh-huh.
Well, it
So
started
anyway.
her career, and then we're all here at Northeast, so.
Well, thank you for having us, and thank all of you for all the work you do in our wonderful school district.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Cherry, I see you on the first page, very dapper, with your Letterman's jacket. Very neat.
This is fantastic.
Yes,
Thank
thank
you very
you.
much.
Yeah.
Really appreciate your hard work.
And it's important for us to know our history and for us to reminisce on our history, so.
It truly was a labor of love.
I'm sure. Well, thank you so much, and thank you for still being committed to our school district. Yeah.
And the stories.
Yeah, their stories, yeah.
Great little anecdotal.
That's cute. Thank you.
Valuable.
Where'd everybody go?
Okay, guys, we're going to keep going. Next item.
B, highly qualified teacher data.
Dr. Newman.
Thank you, President Bresnahan. I would like to ask Mr. Joel Trevino, Executive Director for Human Resources, to approach the podium and address this item.
Good evening.
Good evening. It's good.
Good evening, Board President, board members, executive staff, Dr. Gottardy, and guests. Each year, we have to certify to the state that all of our teachers are highly qualified according to the No Child Left Behind Act. And they also require that we make a presentation before the school board. As such, you received a report that lists every school in the district and the percentage of highly qualified teachers in each of those campuses. And I'm happy to report again this year that all the teachers in all of the campuses are highly qualified as per No Child Left Behind.
Yay. Good job.
That's our principals doing that. Yes, thank you.
Mr. Trevino, will this be a requirement with the new Student Success Act that was just passed? Do you know?
Excellent question. I asked somebody in the know, and he told me he thinks we will not have to do this next year.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, we shall see. Well,
But
thank
that's
you.
preliminary. Thank you very much.
Do we have any other questions for Mr. Trevino? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next item.
C, public hearing for the 2014-2015 Texas Academic Performance Report.
Dr. Dow.
Thank you, President Bresnahan, members of the board, executive staff, and guests, and of course, Dr. Gottardy, who stepped out for a little bit.
Yep.
Every year, we are required to make a report to the trustees and hold a public hearing. Today, we will present to you the 2014-15 TAPR report, which is a Texas Academic Performance Report, and I'd like to invite Jeff Kurth, who is our Senior Director for Planning and Research, and Dorian Jones, who is our Research Analyst, to make the presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Dow. As Dr. Dow had mentioned, that every year we're here to give this report from for the Texas Academic Performance Report. We received the report on November 19th. We are given up to 90 days to be able to provide a report on the TAPR, and we've decided that tonight that we would do that. We need to publish the actual reports and the presentation that we do tonight within 2 weeks. Actually, we'll have that done. We actually have everything published on our website other than this presentation, and as soon as we have given the presentation tomorrow morning, it'll be published on our website also. The TAPR report is we required to provide information about a number of different areas. We are going to talk about 3 of those major areas tonight, which are the performance indicators, report of violent and criminal incidents, and the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board. We need to have, I didn't realize we don't have the presentation up.
We have it on our screens.
Oh, well, you guys have it on your screens? Okay. Should we move on then? Okay. Sure. All right. One area, the PEAMS Financial Standard Report, we are not going to provide that report tonight because Brian Moy provided that last year. The financial report is always 2 years in arrears. That was for the 13-14 school year, and he provided that last November, not this November, but last November, to the board. The campus performance, there we go, we're up and running now. The campus performance objectives, those were provided to you. A report was given to you about the campus performance objectives on the September 14th in the board meeting. So you've been provided that information already. So we're going to focus on the last 3, which are the performance indicators, which we'll spend a lot of time on, the violent and criminal incidences, and then finally the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board. They usually provide us data, and that we'll provide that to the board tonight also. Like I said, it's the actual URL where we are posting this information, and the presentation is up there on the screen, and we will post that presentation tomorrow morning as soon as we're finished with the presentation to the board tonight. There are a large number of indicators. We're not going to cover all of them tonight. There's over 20 pages for the TAPR report. So we're just going to provide highlights of the report. There is a new section for this year, and that's for bilingual education and English as a second language. It provides a number of indicators for bilingual students and ELL students, from Phase-In 1 performance standards, the recommended performance standard, and the Level 3 advanced standard, and also the exceeded progress and met progress. We'll provide some of that information tonight also with these new indicators for this student group, this program. Also, I just want to remind you that the TAPR report this year does not include STAR Grades 3-8, STAR Accommodated, and STAR Alt. We have provided prior reports of this information to the board, so you should be familiar with how we did there. But tonight we won't be speaking at all about STAR Math Grades 3-8. Algebra 1, of course, because that standard was set, and we do have results for that. Okay, Dorian?
Okay, so I'm up next. Just to give you an outline of what the use of the TAPR indicators are for the state accountability system, this chart just exhibits and displays each of the TAPR indicators that are displayed in the report. And they're also in line with the state accountability system. So you'll notice, and I'm not going to go over every single one, but like the first one, STAR percent at phase-in, satisfactory standard or above, that's in line with Index 1, Index 3, distinction designation indicators, and system safeguards. So the great thing about this new accountability system is that they're definitely in line with the TAPR indicators that are displayed in the report. So this is an overview of what our performance as a district was for 2014-15. Overall, as Northeast Independent School District, we did meet criteria for Met Standard rating, and you'll see that it's also broken down by campus level for high school, middle school, and elementary school. And you'll see that 94% of our campuses met standard. We had 4 campuses that received an improvement required, and those were Camelot, East Terrell Hills, Montgomery, and West Avenue elementary schools. The campus distinction designations are based on the criteria that you see. So if Jeff clicks, you'll notice that these are definitely in line with Index 2, 3, and 4. And so these are distinction designations that each campuses are able to meet based on their 40 comparable campuses that meet the same similar criteria, demographic criteria, as their own. And so 69% of our campuses, so those were 47 out of 68, received at least one distinction designation in comparison to 50% of our campuses statewide. So I'd like to note that we had 3 campuses that met or received all possible distinction designations. So those were Northwood, Hebner, and Roan Forest Elementary School campuses that received all possible indicators. So criteria for meeting distinction designations vary by campus level, and this is just a quick chart to let you know what each indicators by subject are. And so each campus level has to meet different percentage criteria. So for high school, for example, would have to meet 33% of the total possible indicators per subject. And elementary and middle school, they would have to meet 50% of the total possible indicators for each subject. Thank you, Jeff.
Okay. Another area of the TAPR is, of course, student information. And before I start on that, you're going to see a whole series of bar charts. So I just want to just familiarize yourself with these bar charts. All of them will compare Northeast Independent School District with the state. The state will always be on the left, will be the bar on the left, which is the olive green color. And Northeast will always be the tan, the reddish tan color on the right. So starting with student information and with the ethnic distribution, as you know, Dr. Gottardy has always told us that Northeast Independent School District continues to move towards what the state looks like. And so we continue to progress. Our numbers look more and more like the state over the years. African American, as you can see, we're at 7.3%. Hispanic is at 57.6%, almost approaching 58% of our population. White is over 28%. And then we have the others 4 race ethnic groups that, as you see there. Interesting, economically disadvantaged. This is for the 14-15 school year. Economically disadvantaged is at 45.2%. I'll let you know that based on PEIMS for this current school year, 15-16, we're already over 46%. So we've increased over 1% from the 14-15 school year to the 15-16 school year, which is our current school year.
Jeff, do you know the composition of that 46% as it relates to ethnicity?
Of course,
or
it's,
at some
yeah,
point?
just overall,
Yeah.
it's basic.
Comment.
The majority of Hispanic
Hispanics.
and African American.
Got it.
Yeah. English language learners in the 14-15 school year, we went over the 10%. Just imagine what that means. That means 1 out of every 10 students is an English language learner in our district in that school year. And I'll let you know we're approaching 11% for the 15-16 school year. And so we'll continue to move towards what you see what the state looks like there. Programs, bilingual ESL, we're at 11.5% for the 14-15 school year. Career and Tech was at 18%. The gifted and talented is just a little under 6%. Special ed is at 9%.
Okay, I have another question, just because
Yes,
then I'll
ma'am.
forget
For
if you
sure.
keep moving forward. Is
Mhm.
that all right? With the GT, is that capacity or so we fulfill all the GT students that meet that criteria, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I would have to refer
I would
to
think
school
so,
improvement,
but-
but yes. So,
We don't turn away kids that are eligible for GT.
no, that I know of, no.
Okay.
No, we do not.
Got it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. This is our first slide that we look at for performance. And once again, the olive color will be the state, and the reddish tan color will be Northeast Independent School District. In the 2015 STAR test, it was the pass rate was based on, as you remember, the phase-in 1 performance standard. And if you look at this graph, you see it goes from grade 3 on the far left to all the way to English 2 to the far right. What you'll notice is that for grade 3, we're 2 percentage points above the state. But if you go over to the far right, English 2, and you can see we are over 11 percentage points above the state. The other thing that you might want to notice on this graph is that grades 5 and 8 have the highest pass rates for the state and also for us. But remember, that's the SSI grade level for reading. They are provided 2 administrations to pass the test. And so that has kind of elevated those 2 grade levels that you see. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a next slide.
Okay.
Algebra 1 is our only math scores that we see here. And as you can see, for Algebra 1, we're at 88% as compared to the state at 81%. Remember, that includes 8th grade and 9th grade that you see the scores here. So they're both included in this overall percentage. Writing, of course, is in grades 4 and 7. For 4th grade, we're at 73%, 3 percentage points above the state. And for 7th grade, we're at 81%, which is 8 percentage points above the state. Social studies and U.S. history. U.S. history is in grade 11 is the end of course exam. As we see, 8th grade, we're at 75%, and at U.S. history, we are up at 97%. And as you know, we've done really well in the end of course exams as compared to other districts and for the state. For science and biology, grade 5-8 is science, and then biology is typically in the 9th grade. For grade 5 science, we were at 78% pass rate. 8th grade was at an 81% pass rate, and biology is at a 96% pass rate.
Okay,
So,
so
Dorian?
this slide shows the star percent at phase-in, satisfactory, standard, or above. And if Jeff clicks one more time, we want to show you this slide because all subjects, all grade levels, is based on the Index 1 performance. So you'll see that number, 84%, match the actual indicator score for Index 1. Can you go back? Thank you. And then, of course, you'll see all grades for reading, and in math, of course, it's only Algebra 1, writing, science, and social studies. And you'll notice we do fairly well when comparison to the state. So couple percentage points, if not a little bit higher than the state when you compare us with the state percentage points. So star percent at post-secondary readiness, this is an indicator that shows the percent of students that are sufficiently prepared for post-secondary readiness. What that means is the students that actually meet that final level 2 recommended standard. So that you'll notice the reason why those numbers look a little bit lower than the ones from the previous slide. Final level 2 standard, which means students meeting that standard for 2 or more subjects. And of course, this is the indicator for Index 4. If Jeff clicks one more time, this is a good visual to show y'all. This is a raw conversion table for math 3rd grade English version. And so you'll see what's highlighted first above is the phase-in 1 level 2 standard in comparison to the final recommended level 2 standard. So there's a 12-question difference between the two level 2 standards, and that's something to notate. Okay, thank you. So star percent at advanced standard, this is the percentage of tests that students meet or exceed level 3 performance standard. So this measure was used to determine Index 3 for the accountability system. So to be a level 3, a student would have to meet or at least get 90% correct. So if Jeff goes to the next slide, what you'll see is now the students having to meet more questions. So when we use the same conversion table, now what we're looking at is phase in 1, level 2 in comparison to level 3 standard, which is a huge difference. You see about 19 question difference between those two. Okay. This is the new indicator for ELL. So star percent at phase in satisfactory or above for ELLs. And so you'll see all subjects, ELL students compared to ELL students at the state, we do fairly well. And so you'll notice the all subjects, 55 for the state in comparison to 61 for Northeast ELL students. So that's a huge accomplishment, I believe. As well as when you start breaking it down by subjects for reading, all grades, Algebra 1, of course, writing, science, and social studies. Okay. So this next slide shows the post-secondary readiness. Of course, now we're looking at ELL, English language learners, that meet the advanced level 3 standard. Again, we do fairly well when you look at 2 or more subjects, reading, Algebra 1, writing, and science. But for social studies, we do lag a percentage point behind the state.
One more. You?
Good.
We done this one all right?
Yes.
Okay. This is the advanced standard?
Oh,
Okay.
I'm sorry, did we?
No, we haven't done that one.
Okay, sorry. I was wondering why he was looking at me. Star percent at advanced standard. So advanced standard, this is, this is for level 3. So before that, it was post-secondary readiness. So I apologize for that. Okay.
Okay, so also for Index 2, as you know, we use the met or exceeded progress measure. And just to remind you what that is that students need to have 2 years of tests. So for example, a 5th grader would have to have a prior year 4th grade score. And what we look at is the difference between scale scores from one year to the next. And we call that the gain score. The gain score then is compared to a target. And that target determines, you could call it more like a 1 year's progress. So do they make a year's progress? So either from that gain score, did they meet or did they exceed progress for 1 year? That's how we determine that. And these are scores. There are only 3 subjects this year that had a progress measure, and that's reading, Algebra 1, and writing. And so as you can see, we did, for reading, across all grade levels, we had 62% of our kids meet or exceed the progress measure. For Algebra 1, 56%, and for writing was 64%. And this is looking at, once again, we're looking at students that did not do well the prior year. So if you look at the STAR 2014 year, if you identify all the students that failed a STAR test in the 2014 STAR test and look to see how did they do in 2015. So this is only in grades 4-8 that we do this with. And so this is the percent of students that failed the prior year and that they actually passed the next year for the STAR 2015. So in Northeast, 43% of our students who failed the prior year were able to pass the test the next year, as compared to the state, which was 39%. Student Success Initiative for this year is only in reading, and I think for this upcoming year, for 2016 STAR test, we'll see it in math and reading. So looking at grade 5 and 8, you're looking at how we did compared to the state in the first administration. So for grade 5, 80% of our students passed the test during the first administration, and in grade 8 it was 84%. If we add the second administration, you can see the cumulative effect that our grade 5 reading went to 87% and grade 8 reading went to 90%. And roughly that's, for the STAR test, roughly about 35% of our kids passed the test during the second administration. So they failed it the first time. 35% of those kids who failed the first time will pass the test the second time. That's a little bit less than the old the old tax test. That back in the tax era, it was about 50% of the kids that would pass it. And I'm assuming that that's because of the rigor of the new STAR test, that it's a little bit more difficult for those kids to pass it even the second time. Attendance and dropout rates. In upper left-hand corner, you see the attendance rates for the 13-14 school year were at 96%, which is up just a tick from the 2012-13 school year. And then down in the bottom right corner, you can see the dropout rates. There's an indicator for grades 7-8, and there's also an indicator for grades 9-12. The lower the bar is better, right? So we're looking at approaching 0 for both of those.
But I kind of have trouble with that one,
Mhm.
because it's not a percentage. It's a numeric assignment, but I didn't.
It is a percentage. There's a number of exclusions. I have them here, but there's a large number of exclusions that they pull out from the state.
The lever codes or something?
Yes, there's
Yeah.
a number of exclusions because of that. In penitentiary, if they were already a dropout a prior year, there's like 6 or 7 different exemptions or exclusions that are there. So there are a larger number there, but the numbers are low because of that. So.
But it would not be correct for me to say the dropout rate for our district is 1.5%.
For grades 9-12?
Yes.
Including the exclusions, yes, that would be true.
But then the following slide was where you see the 10%, right? I looked at these two for a while ago.
Oh, okay. So if
Yes.
you want to go to the next slide
Yeah,
here?
see the 90, class of 2014, 90.4?
Yeah, this is the
See that-
graduation rate. And the graduation rate is, you use a
okay.
cohort.
Yeah,
So it's based
got
on a
it.
cohort, and so
That always confuses me.
I don't want to say that they're funny numbers, but you follow that cohort over the 4 years to see
Right,
where
to
they
get a
are.
true
Yeah. And there's also,
graduation rate.
and there's also exclusions for the graduation rates too. And there's a federal graduation rate, and
Yeah.
there's and then there's a state graduation rate. And the federal rate doesn't allow for the exclusions that the state do in the 2 lever codes that you see there of 88 and 89. Okay.
That's hard for me. You can go back to the slide. I know I had you go forward if you want to
Okay.
continue what you were saying there, sorry.
No, it's just that is that grade 7-8, the dropout rate was at 0.2%, and in grades 9-12, it's 1.5%. And I did that for you, but you can move to the next one.
It's okay.
Okay.
So RHSP DAP graduates, this is the percent of graduates who, after 4 years, meet course requirements for the Texas Board of Education, so the recommended high school or the Distinguished Achievement Program. So these are your numbers, and we gave you a 3-year comparison, so you can see the difference between class of 2012, class of 2013, and then class of 2014.
Okay.
Advanced course dual enrollment completion. So this is an indicator that's based on the count of students who complete and receive credit for at least one advanced course in grades 9-12. So advanced courses include dual enrollment courses, and dual enrollment courses are those for which a student gets both a high school or college credit, so either or. Our college-ready graduates, these are our percent of graduates who either met or exceeded college-ready criteria on the following tests. So you'll see we still have a couple students that are rated under the criteria under tax, and then there's SAT and ACT as well. And then there's 3 criteria, so it's either reading, ELA, math, and then both subjects that these students are rated against.
Okay, advanced placement, and it really is just advanced placement. We do not have an international baccalaureate results here, but we do know, and we've talked a lot with the board about our success with advanced placement. And so, as you can see, for our, and we're only looking at grades 11 and 12 here, but for the 2014 graduates, that over 35% of the students actually were tested in an AP course. And of those students that were tested, 60% of those students actually meet the criteria. And the criteria is receiving on the AP course a 3, 4, or 5, which provides college credit for a lot of our institutions here in the state of Texas. SAT, ACT results, if we look at that same class of 2014, 72% of our students take an SAT or an ACT test to prepare themselves to go to college the next year. And of those 72%, 33% of that group meet the criteria, and that criteria is either a 24 on the ACT or a 1110 on the SAT test. And as you can see on the right-hand side, the average SAT scores are at 1491 for our district. And that's almost 80 points higher than the state. So it looks pretty good for the district.
Okay, so we're going to switch gears for a little bit. We're going to present the annual report on school safety. And so this is prepared by our Executive Director of Pupil Personnel. So if there's any questions, she's here in the audience to answer any of those questions. So this report includes the number and type of violent or criminal incidents, and it also provides information concerning school violence prevention and intervention programs. So these are the number of violent or criminal incidents, and just to keep in mind, these aren't the number of students that have the misconduct with these types of criteria, it's the number of incidents. So this gives you a 3-year comparison of each of these criteria. So you have some of the numbers like possession, the second criteria, soldier use or other controlled substance. Those incidences have actually declined over the past 3 years. So these are the number of incidents for each of these criteria. And then if Jeff goes to the next slide, it ends to the total violent and criminal incidents. So at the very bottom, you'll see that we've gone from 1081 down to 822 incidences throughout the last 3 years. So.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think the asterisk is a small number. It's less than 5, so they do not post provide the actual number.
Yes, good evening, and thank you. I'm going to interject
Oh,
myself
okay.
here.
Yeah, please
The
do.
ASTER, keep in mind, these numbers are always a year in arrear too, and the ASTER denotes an incident anywhere from 1 to 4, but because it's under 5, we have to put the ASTER because you could possibly identify an individual, and that would violate our FERPA protection rights that we have to have. So anytime you see that ASTER, you just know that there's at least 1 and could be up to 4, but that's all we can tell you on that. And the big bottom line is the 822. You know, we're getting better and better about talking to our parents and the community with certain incidents that occur and what we want to stop and get help for. And we actually decreased, if you get down to percentage, 14%. The state tracks 35 offenses, and we only actually had to report 20 of the 35. And in these numbers, too, are carryovers from incidences that occurred the year before in the spring semester where they're finishing up. And we also have in these numbers incidents that occur outside of our district where we've inherited someone and we honor the district's placement, that it didn't necessarily occur in Northeast, but in another district, which happens. That happens every year. We had 12 categories that we actually decreased in, and a couple that we stayed even keel. And we're working very diligently, if I can take this time to say,
Of course.
in this district, we're working very diligently with parents and community members and teachers. We've got a district oversight committee now because we were concerned of the collaboration across the district, and that's a big focus with our oversight committee. And so that we've got a 3-year program that we're looking at positive behavior interventions for not just serious offense, but for local offenses. So we're working more and more in keeping children in the classroom, which helps the academic piece as well. And I'm not going to stand up here and claim credit. I will tell you that along with parents and teachers, it's a family affair with individuals out here in the curriculum and in school improvement with bringing things to the classroom and helping them become better educators and classroom managements. We have counseling department that works very closely, Otika Gibson and Safe and Drug-Free Schools and what the stand counselors bring to the table for the schools. A family specialist out of the curriculum area. The incredible support that you as a board and Dr. Gottardy gives in these programs and that allows to be present in schools that vary in their community. You know, the programs that will help bullying, programs that will help character building, they're all in there with PALS and peer mediation, restorative work on some campuses. It is a huge process, and it takes a lot of individuals to help. Stephanie Hinchin with RTI is working very closely with Kara Hallenberger and Special Ed Department. I can just go on and on, but I want to assure you as a board, we're doing everything we can to communicate with parents, and it's more than just a student-parent handbook. And it's nibble, 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 and we're nibbling. So I want to thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Ms. McNabb, just, what is a terroristic threat? How is that defined?
A terroristic threat is when you threaten to harm someone and you actually could have the means on you at the time to follow through. It doesn't necessarily, sometimes it gets a little blurred with assault by threat, where someone is threatening to do something, but they have no real presence and no mean to do that or intent. They're just saying it, versus someone that's threatening and then has something in their hand to follow through.
I see.
A knife, pair of scissors, you know, along with that, and is making that gesture to follow through on their verbal is really where it jumps into that terroristic. And then you take it one further, aggravated assault, where you've really provided beyond the personal space of the individual and you're about to carry or do carry something out. So.
And I was intrigued by the fighting line because it goes from 128 way down to 16 and then up to 33.
Correct. There were some years where we were allowing some principals with some schools, if you fight the first time, you leave. And while that did work for a while, overall the stats showed that it didn't necessarily help and peel the onion of why you're getting into a fight. Right. And then we also kind of looked at it and said, okay, let's look at fights. Are we talking about a push, shove versus a knockdown, drag out where someone's getting hurt? And so we were trying to distinguish that as far as placing a student in a DAP right off the bat, as opposed to working out the emotions and seeing if they've learned from it. So that's helped a little bit on the numbers.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. McNabb.
Thank you, Ann. So prevention and intervention, this begins with informing students, parents, and staff, as Ann was saying. NEISD produces and makes available the electronic version of the student-parent handbook. So it's also available English and Spanish. And since it's available online, a hard copy is also available by request. So it contains the student code of conduct and provides the expectations of student behavior, as well as the disciplinary procedures and consequences of misconduct. School personnel review highlights of the handbook with students and reinforce rules and expectations throughout the school year. And so each campus has a safe and drug-free campus contact who receives 2 days of district training, which they take back with them at their campus. NEISD uses a variety of curricula, and I'm not going to go over every single one, but it has increased, I believe, from last year to this year. So we have some new curricula, Amigos in Mediation through Bexar County Dispute Resolution Center. We've got Character Counts, Safe School Ambassadors, Champs, and Project Wisdom. So our district ensures that there's consistent application of discipline management resources throughout the district. Our district also provides a comprehensive set of support programs under the auspices of leadership development and safe and drug-free school departments, including all of these comprehensive programs like the Leader in Me, STAN, PALS, Safe School Ambassadors. So all these different programs provide the prevention and intervention for these types of misconduct.
Okay, thank you. So we're almost there.
Yeah.
The last slides we're going to look at have data that's provided to us by the Higher Education Coordinating Board. And so the first thing we want to look at here is our 2012-13 graduates and look to see how, what percentage actually enroll in a higher education institute, either a college or a university, or 2-year, 4-year. And as you can see for the 2012-13 graduates, 60%. This is we only track in the state of Texas.
Right.
So this does not track students that go out of state. And so if they go to another state, we do not know where those, so we can't differentiate the kids that go out of state versus the kids that don't go to any university at all. Yeah. So all we're looking at here is tracking here in the state of Texas. And so as I said, it's approaching 60% for that 2012-13 school year. In the bottom right-hand corner, those same graduates, when they went to the university in the 13-14 school year, about 3/4 of them did not require remediation in their entry-level courses for that year that they were there. So it's at 76.4%. Okay. This is a chart that is also, this is information also provided to us by the Higher Education Coordinating Board. And I want to, this first column here in the entering fall of 2012, these are the 2012-13 graduates. So it's the same kids that you saw in the prior charts, in the prior slide. But you might notice at the very bottom, the total high school graduates at 52% that are going to university. Remember I said it was approaching 60%?
Right.
The difference between that 8% is that the TAPR report is published in November of this year. This data was published last March, so it doesn't include kids that might enroll in the spring of the prior year. That they only, so you can see that it really is more than 52%. But what's nice about this is you can actually see what percentage of kids go to what universities, and we put the one with the highest enrollment at the top. So San Antonio College, for the 2012-13 graduates, 24.5% of the graduates went to San Antonio College. We do have higher education data for the next year for the 13-14 graduates, although it's not published in the TAPR report. And you can see on the far right here, these up green arrows and the red down arrows. That is just showing you the differences from the 2012-13 graduates to the 13-14 graduates. So you can see San Antonio College, it went from 24.5% down to 19.4%. So you can see which colleges went up or down from each one of the years that you see there.
That is a fascinating slide to me. I mean, so what I took from this, other than Texas A&M, and I'm sorry, I attribute part of that to the football program when they were winning with the big quarterback, but the other ones, college, UTSA, and North, unbelievable. So it's like a lot of kids are staying in the city, and I'm sure that's economically driven, I would think. But the disparity between San Antonio College and UTSA. So UTSA seems to be making some great inroads, and San Antonio College is losing kids. And then I thought, well, what's the price differential? I don't know.
Right.
Isn't there quite a... That's what I thought. So that really...
Yeah, I think also...
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
This is a very interesting slide on what's trending. And I'm sorry, also the other Palo Alto College went up. And just the whole 4-year versus 2-year.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, the Northeast Lakeview College, that's a closer proximity to our district.
I
so I think
thought about that.
Some kids might not be going to San Antonio College, but are going to there because it's more around the corner as compared to going all the way downtown.
Well, and then SAC, they had that great little advertising campaign where they compared costs. So that surprised me a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I understand it, but I don't know. I spent a lot of time looking at that, trying to understand the reasons behind it.
Right.
I don't really, it's all conjecture on my part.
Okay. So then the last slide, this is also provided
one?
to us by the Texas
This one
Higher
as well,
Education
yeah.
Coordinating Board. So this is the same 2012-13 graduates from our district, and this is looking at the next fall, spring, and summer semesters and looking at their grade point averages. And so we can see that for Northeast, that 48% at the four-year public university, 48% have a GPA of higher than greater than 3. At the two-year college, 36%. So, and that's our report. We just want to make sure the public knows if there's any questions, they can email me at jkurth@neisd.net. And we provide all this information online on our district website. And also, we are publishing hard copies of all the TAPR reports for the district and all our campuses.
Great.
And they're in the information desk across the way. So anybody who wants to come in, they can make photocopies of those if they would like to.
Wonderful.
At this point, we're finished. If there's any questions, any additional questions, we're welcome to answer them.
Questions, anyone? I have one, and I'm not sure if someone can answer. I'm sure someone can explain this to me, maybe Dr. Dow. And it has to do with post-secondary readiness. And I noticed there are 2 classifications. So you have well-prepared and sufficiently prepared. And I wonder, or is there any data that is retrospective? So the kids keep going through college, and then they retrospectively compare that data to what the data looks like for the well-prepared and the sufficiently prepared. It's kind of like testing the model.
Right.
Does that happen?
So are you talking about longitudinal data, essentially looking at how students are doing 2, 4, 6 years into their post-secondary
Yes.
education? We were talking about that today, as a matter of fact. And there are not many models in the state of Texas where we're able to actually garner that information. But we believe that that's an important thing to research. And so honestly, just today, I've asked Jeff and the team to look at models across the nation to see how they're capturing that data, and for us to begin to explore and think about how we can do that. Because essentially, how kids do in college and in the workforce years after they've walked across the graduation stage is truly the measure of whether or not we were able to serve them well.
Sure. So when you say well-prepared, well, to me, well-prepared is, okay, the student went through college and graduated, or the student went through college, graduated, and was prepared for, or got a job in the workforce. But it's kind of a very esoteric term, well-prepared, sufficiently prepared. I always wonder about that.
Correct.
Dr.
I think the one, excuse me.
No, no,
I
go
think
ahead.
the one other thing that, we're sort of puzzling with is students that, are presumably well-prepared and choose to go to college, whether it's in Texas or outside of Texas. And then how about those kids who, for whatever reason, choose not to go to college either yet or don't in the future?
Yeah.
We'd like to be able to figure out a way to take a look at what that looks like, because HB5 and CTE and those opportunities could actually be stepping stones for students along the way.
Sure. Dr. Gottardy, you were going to make a comment?
I would just add that many students are well prepared. You centered in on that term.
Yes.
Many students are well prepared when they walk the stage at our high school commencements. What they do when they go on to college, university, the workforce, we don't have any control over that.
True.
We don't. We as the Northeast Independent School District do not have control as to whether or not they go off and they utilize, or if they just have a good time.
Sure.
Or
That's
et
a good
cetera.
point.
And I don't want to add in all those. So I think it's important that we all want our students, we all want our students to go off and do great things.
Of course.
But I think it's very important that NEISD concentrates on K through 12 and that we prepare students to go do great things. But I don't think we should be held accountable for how they go off and perform after they graduate from our high schools.
Well, I think you bring up a very good point.
It's a very argumentative philosophy, but I think at some point somebody else has to take that accountability.
So I kind of think you and I are thinking the same thing. So my thought.
I hope we are.
Yes. So then why do we measure for post-secondary readiness?
Because that reflects on us. It
But-
still
but-
reflects on us.
But look at Brian's argument, Dr. Gottardy's argument. So, and I see exactly what he's saying, but I know it reflects on us, but is it really a valid metric? I mean, I know this is a big conversation, but don't you think about that? I mean,
What's the best number we should be looking at? Okay? What's the best number? We've had numbers from 52% to 56% to 60%. And then if you look even at the last part, where we have 4 years and 2-year institutions, we have 84%.
Right.
And so what is the number we should be focusing on? Or is there a couple of numbers we should be focusing on for post-secondary readiness?
Right. Bingo.
I think that's
It's a
it right
360.
there. There are multiple measures. No one number is going to give you, that slice is not going to give you the big picture or even a more substantial picture. So the more we can triangulate the data, just like a good pilot does, when they're
Yeah,
trying to
that helps.
navigate, right, the better or the closer we're going to get. And so I guess I totally agree. I'm thinking just in terms, so if you think of even pre-K through 12th grade, you can pretty much say that in Northeast, we do a pretty darn good job in elementary because look how well those kiddos do in middle school and, again, their trajectory into high school. So
Right.
every one of those levels has a contribution to make for how well kids are going to be prepared up the road. And so, I mean, I think I hearken back just to why HB 5 sort of came along, this idea that if students are able to be well prepared and have a solid foundation, that regardless of what they choose to focus on, once they leave and can, go on to be happy family supporting citizens in the community, they'll be able to do that. So I'm thinking, again, the post-secondary really is just about the long-term success trajectory of the students from Northeast and other districts.
One of the 4 indexes that we get rated on is on post-secondary
Exactly.
readiness.
Right.
So we have to make sure that what we're doing in grades 3 through 8 in high school, that we're doing absolutely everything we can to where we score well on that index.
Yeah.
And in the same token, it's to prepare kids
Sure.
to go off and do, and that's what's great about House Bill 5, that they get to go off and do what they want to do, whether that's the military, 4-year college, university, 2-year certification, and then go to work. So that's really I mean, we do a lot of things in the Northeast Independent School District, but one of the main things that we should be held accountable for by our community is preparing students to go off and do what they want to do. When they leave us,
They're ready to go.
we think they're ready to go.
Yeah.
It's like we're handing that baton off,
Right.
and higher ed,
Now they need to take it.
2-year, mom and dad.
Yeah.
I mean, and really, Johnny and Susie need to
Right.
take accountability for themselves and go off and do great things.
I guess it's a bit of my skepticism because I know we all know here what we hear from higher ed. Oh my gosh, it's because of what happened in K through 12. And so I feel a little defensive sometimes. I mean, don't you? And so when I see post-secondary readiness, I think, look at our numbers, like Mr. Wheat said. But then there's such a political football going on between higher ed and K-12, and sometimes I think they use it to their advantage, and they look for someone to blame, and it's us. I know I'm feeling very defensive.
Well, I mean, just if I may,
Oh,
just
yes,
one other
please.
perspective I'll add is that
Please.
I think that part of what this conversation forces, and I think others are having the conversation, is a better alignment, right, between pre-K,
Sure.
12, and then beyond that. And so to the extent that higher ed can line up with what it is we're doing in elementary, middle, and high school, I think we'll do a better job just as community
Great.
to prepare students, right?
Well, at least you have us thinking.
Well, I mean, we have our own children that we can
Uses-
look at as our
absolutely.
examples, and our friends' children who we hear about.
Been thinking.
And in my case now, even the second generation
Right.
of kiddos, and they did real good. So, they were definitely prepared.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact,
I
in many
agreed.
cases, their university professors, said, wow,
Right.
these kids know what they're doing. So, I mean, I think we're hearing those things for the most part, but certainly we don't know what's going to happen in their lives.
Right. That may
cause them to be successful.
Or
and
sure,
not
challenge them. Oh, and I agree with you completely. I think about my first child going away to school, and he had to take the 5-hour calculus. We were so worried about that because he was on a scholarship. And he said that first semester, everything we did here, we did in high school. Thank goodness. There's a lot riding on that class. And as Mrs. Perkins said, we have so many examples, all of us. Friends and family members and.
And it never, I mean, and it always just makes me so proud.
Yeah, me as well.
I haven't heard a negative thing. I mean, seriously, have not heard one negative thing in terms of, you know, my children went through your school system and they weren't prepared. No.
The only time I've heard a few negatives is when their child didn't get into medical school. I'm like, well, you know, really?
Ms. Perkins, I actually get I get the same kind of comment.
Yeah.
But it's that our preparation for their kiddos here prepared them for a 4-year college or university that was much easier than the high schools in this district.
Right.
I hear that comment all the time. Now, they don't like you while their kids are in our high schools,
Amen.
but they love it when they get to college.
Amen.
Yeah. Or like I said, when they're angry because their child didn't get into medical school, but they only had a, 5% acceptance rate. Well, come on. That's not our fault. Sorry. Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you. That was very interesting and well, I appreciate your hard work, both of you.
Thank you.
And that's very magnanimous of you, Mr. Kurt, to have your contact information on the report.
Not mine. But y'all
Yeah,
can
not
find me.
you, him.
But you can find me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We don't have to do anything, right?
No.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, excellent job. Next item.
D, School Board Recognition Month.
Okay, so who is this?
Me.
Dr. Gottardy.
Keep it short.
Oh, come on.
Madam
Mr.
President, board members, ladies and gentlemen, every year the Texas Association of School Boards designates January as School Board Recognition Month. In following that tradition, I would like to present a resolution recognizing the Northeast ISD board members for their service to the district during the month of January 2016. We truly appreciate our board members, and we are blessed to have an outstanding group of leaders representing our community. They selflessly give of themselves for the success of each and every student. In these challenging times, they face difficult choices and shoulder critical responsibilities. Their actions and decisions affect the present and future lives of our children. As superintendent, I am very fortunate to partner with such dedicated, professional, and hardworking individuals. Our board members truly care about our district, our students, and the communities that they serve. Although showing appreciation should be a year-round process, I hope you will join me in thanking our school board next month for being outstanding champions for our children and public education. Ladies and gentlemen, help me give them a round of applause.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I thought we did this in January.
I know.
Don't we?
Why are we
I'm
doing this
confused. Dr. Gottardy?
Resolution.
Did we always do this month? Resolution? Oh, my goodness.
There we go. In preparation for January.
And for January.
The resolution is for January.
Well, thank you very much.
We thank you very much for what you guys do. I mean, 2 or 3 hours, 4 hours on a Monday night, 2 or 3 times a month. But that's just a little bit of what they do. The countless activities, games, concerts, PTA events, robotics. Oh, and there's this little thing at the end of the year called graduation that was 8 nights in a row that we're moving to 5 nights in a row. We just thank you very much because we as the school district, we cannot do our jobs without you, and our community would not be nearly as successful without your dedication and self-sacrifice for what we do in the school district. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and you make it easy for us, so all of you. We really appreciate it, and it's an honor to serve on this board. Next item.
8, Board Business. A, possible action regarding ballot cast for Bear Appraisal District Board of Directors for 2016-2017.
Okay. This is the nomination phase of the selection process for election of the Bear Appraisal District Board of Directors for the years 2016-2017. As required by Section 6.03A Texas Tax Code, the number of votes to which each taxing unit is entitled in this year's selection process has been calculated. The Northeast ISD has 891 votes. Each taxing unit is entitled to cast its votes for one candidate or distribute them among candidates for any number of directors. 850 votes are required to win, which leaves 41 votes to cast. Well, a total of 891 votes. So we have our candidate, Mr. Hughey, Keith Hughey, and we need to place a motion. Okay, I think I did that correctly. Is there anything else any questions regarding this?
So
Mrs. Wolff?
For our candidate, or are we trying to share the votes?
Yes, we are voting for our candidate, and we need a motion.
Okay.
But however, and Mrs. Grona, so you can help me with this. So 800 votes are required to win, 850.
Okay.
So the recommendation is that we cast 850 for Mr. Hughey, and the 41 votes we cast among the other candidates, and it has been suggested to us to use those votes for Ms. Sherry Byram,
Southwest ISD.
Southwest ISD. So that would be the motion if you deem that, to be agreeable. Mrs. Grona, or anyone else?
So moved?
Okay.
Is that what you want me to say?
Yes. Yes.
Second. Sure.
Okay, so
Ma-
800, yes, sir.
Madam Chair, I guess my question has to do with the 850.
Okay.
Are we certain that that will get our candidate in, our nominee?
Or do we have to do
Ms.
851?
King, are we, so, yes?
We confirmed that today.
Okay.
850 will get Mr. Hughey reelected, and then it has been the past, in the past, I think as long as I've been superintendent, we've always given the remaining votes to Ms. Sherry Byram at Southwest ISD. And this happens to be 41 this school year.
Okay.
And Mr. Hughey wants the votes?
Good call.
I just have a point of
I guess
order.
it's a yes.
So far, we don't.
Yeah, yes,
I don't
Mrs.
think
Wolff.
we have another nominee at the time.
Right. Mr. Hughey, when you, in your next job, you can do this.
I'm not qualified, Madam President.
Oh. Go ahead, Mrs. Wolff.
I just have a quick point of
Sure.
order. Ms. King, there's a correction on the actual resolution. The first paragraph reads November 14th instead of December 14th.
It's already been corrected. I'd
Thank
sent
you.
it to
Okay.
Peggy earlier.
Oh, yay.
Thank you. Oh,
That's the
I
auditor,
never
Mrs.
catch
Grona.
anything.
She said it was.
Okay.
It is. It's online.
Mr. White, was your question sufficiently answered?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. So I have a motion on the table that 850 votes are cast for Mr. Keith Hughey and 41 votes are cast for Mrs. Sherry Byram of Southwest ISD. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain?
And one abstention. Okay. The ayes have it. The motion carries. Thank you.
Not
Next
that I
item.
don't think you can do the job. I just-
We agree with you. And the motion carries. Thank you. Next item.
9, comments from individual board members. A, state board rule on board member continuing education announcement of credit.
Okay. Okay, so this is just a report. The Texas Education Code requires board members to get ongoing continuing education in accordance with the State Board of Education rule. Under this rule, board members are required to get 3 different kinds of continuing education. These 3 types are referred to as tiers. Tier 1 is orientation for first-year board members. Tier 2 is teamwork, and Tier 3 is discretionary continuing education. For example, conferences and conventions. Let the minutes reflect that in accordance with the State Board of Education rules, the following board members, Letty Bresnahan, Shannon, Grona, Sandi, Hughey, Brigitte, Perkins, Ed White, Jim Wheat, and Sandy Wolff, have exceeded the required continuing education hours. Wow, yes. We've exceeded.
We're overachieving.
Okay, and I believe that takes care of that item. Next item?
But is this a curricular
No, it's just a report. And the minutes have to reflect this. Is that right, Ms. King? Thank you. And thanks for double checking.
10, new business for possible board action. A, board policy. 1, possible action regarding board policy DEA and DEAB local, second and final reading.
Dr. Newman.
Thank you, President Bresnahan, members of the board. As you said, this is the second and final reading. I would like to point one thing out to you in your booklet on page 21. In the middle of the page, under annualized salary, we did add the district to that statement as it was inadvertently left out. That is the only change, and we ask that the board approve this second and final reading. Mr. Trevino, our Executive Director of Human Resources, is available should you have questions.
Okay, well, thank you for pointing that out because this is a lot to read and comprehend. Do we have any questions for Mr. Trevino or Dr. Newman? Okay, seeing none, do I have a motion?
I move that the board approve the second and final reading of attached DEA and DEAB local policies.
Thank you, Mrs. Perkins. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Grona. Additional discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. The motion carries. Next item.
B, operations. 1, possible action regarding summer feeding program.
Yes, Ms. Clausen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good evening. I come to you tonight, and you had a resolution in your packet, so I'm not going to read the resolution, but I would like to explain more behind the reason for the resolution. The Northeast ISD School Nutrition Department is requesting to sponsor a summer meal program for children at selected public library locations, city pools, Morgan's Wonderland, and mobile home parks. Traditionally, Northeast ISD has held summer meal programs at summer school locations and campuses having the Parks and Rec program. These meal programs are open to all children, even if they're not in the summer program. However, the programs were unable to reach children that did not have transportation to the selected campuses. NEISD knows that there are many families that rely on school meals during the school year. It is our goal to reach outside of the school walls to provide nutritious meals in places where children gather during the summer. We're seeking to partner with the City of San Antonio, Morgan's Wonderland, and selected mobile home parks to support these NEISD students with summer meals. The selected sites are located in areas of the district where at least 50% of enrolled students are considered economically disadvantaged. Tobin, Thousand Oaks, and Sims public libraries meet this criteria. The Delview City Pool and Morgan's Wonderland are also targeted sites. Additionally, there are mobile home parks in our district that house more than 100 Northeast ISD students. The summer meal program is funded by the Texas Department of Agriculture and provides free meals to all children 18 and under. The meals will be served on site at the library locations and Morgan's Wonderland. The city pool and mobile home park location meals will be delivered by a modified school bus. NEISD Transportation has offered to donate a used school bus that can be modified to resemble a dining car. Children can eat in an
Like a food
air-conditioned
truck.
space, and the mobile meal delivery model will decrease costs to the district. The expenses involved in expanding the summer meal program are expected to include increased labor to staff additional sites and modifications to the donated school bus. But the benefits of the summer meal program expansion include increased meal reimbursement to offset expenses, increased employment opportunities for NEISD food service workers, strengthening community partnerships, supporting families in high-need areas, and maintaining food security in vulnerable student populations during summer months to support the education goals of the district. The NEISD School Nutrition Department requests your support and approval to expand the summer meal program to locations not owned by the school district. This will enable NEISD to feed more needy children in our district this summer. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Clausen. Do we have any questions for Ms. Clausen? Mr. White? No? Anyone else? So how many students do you think you'll reach?
Well, it's hard to predict until you start the program. But last year we did over 27,000 lunches over the summer.
Oh my goodness.
And so that was at 17 campuses. And so we feel that there is a lot of room to grow. because in the school year, we would feed over 40,000 lunches. So there's a lot of room for growth, as well as, like I said, this reaches all children 18 and under, not just school-age children. So I would love to come back to you
Yeah, that's
afterwards and tell
incredible.
you.
So, Ms. Clausen, will you prepare the menus, or your staff, and then the staff will literally go out and serve the students in these areas?
Yes, and we spent this past summer observing at San Marcos CISD, who has a similar model. And so we have someone in the area that we can really rely upon to help guide us in how this would work best.
What a nice partnership.
We can't wait to see it. I'm so
Yeah.
excited.
Yeah.
Well, and you learn a lot being on a school board. I can remember my first year visiting with the principal at Cerna Elementary. I think his name was Jeff Harris. I forget, a young guy.
Jeff Owens?
Maybe so, from Trinity, had gone to Trinity. He left, but I remember him saying how.
Price.
Jeff Price, that's it. How at the end of the year, the students would start to get kind of fidgety and anxious, and I think that's a Title I school, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes, and how difficult it was, and he felt that it was because they knew they were going out there and they were not going to have the meals that they were being, it breaks your heart. It really does. So thank you so much for doing this, and I mean, it's very humbling.
And
Thank
finding
you.
the funding, thank you.
Yeah, the federal funding, and I think it's, and they come back, they're more empowered to learn, and I mean, I get very grouchy when I'm hungry, so, who can learn and concentrate? It's true.
Madam
Dr.
President,
Yes,
if
sir.
I may?
Yes, of course, you're in charge.
No, you're in charge, but I just want to say, there's a lot of unsung heroes
Oh,
in
my
the school
gosh.
district.
Yes.
Everybody sitting out there right now works with kids every day.
Yes.
And I'm proud of each and every one of them. But the idea that our executive director for school nutrition and our executive director for transportation, who's sitting way in the back, stand up. I mean, they came to executive staff several months ago and presented this. I'm really proud of the fact that they are going, we don't have to do this.
No.
This is above and beyond the call of duty to try and help our community. And those three board members that sat on our strategic design committee, you know that compassion and community networking and community partnerships was huge. This is a fantastic endeavor on their part, and I just want to applaud both of them. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Well, everything Mr. Anderson does is exceptional, and I mean that. So, thank you so much, Ms. Clausen, you as well. Well done. Okay, so I think we need a motion.
I move to approve the attached resolution authorizing the expenditures for summer feeding program.
Thank you, Mrs. Wolff. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Grona. Any additional comments, questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Congratulations. Thank you so much.
I want to see that bus.
Yeah. Okay, next item.
C, consent. 1, business services. A, tax roll approval. B, bid items. 2, operations. A, Churchill High School Central Energy Plant Chemical Water Treatment Contracted Services Bid Authorization. B, 2015 bond program, upgrade high school football fields to artificial turf and replace existing artificial turf field at Comalander Stadium bid authorization. 3, end of consent.
Thank you, Mrs. Hughey. Is there a board member wishing to remove an item from the consent agenda? Okay, seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Perkins. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Grona. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. The motion carries. Next item.
11, reports. A, financial statement, review of expenditures.
And those were provided to all of us. Next item.
12, matters from the floor.
Okay. The trustees welcome comments from members of the public during this time of the meeting. Generally, board members do not respond to public comments during the meeting, although members may request further information or a future agenda item on a matter raised during public comment. As explained fully in the board's written procedures for this time, The Matters from the Floor portion is a limited public forum. Accordingly, speakers may present on a topic related to district business for up to 5 minutes, but are not permitted to make, 1, personal complaints about an individual staff or board member that should be raised using the district's grievance policies, 2, a personnel action, 3, a student disciplinary matter, 4, a complaint about a particular student, or 5, pending litigation. Any person who persists in speaking on these topics after being directed not to do so will lose the remainder of their time to speak and may lose their privilege of addressing the board at future meetings. Also, public comments should be made in a respectful and professional manner. Disrespectful conduct and speech will not be tolerated. Persons who violate these requirements will be given a warning. Should the speaker persist in any disrespectful conduct or speech, then he or she will lose their time to continue speaking to the board. Similarly, we ask that persons in attendance refrain from any disruptive conduct during this time. We also welcome written comments at any time, either through email at board@neisd.net or by mail, care of the Superintendent's Office at 8961 Tesoro Drive, 6th floor, San Antonio, Texas, 78217. Mrs. Hughey.
Selena Valdez.
Good evening. My name is Selena Valdez. My address is 9033 Arrow. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. Good evening, Madam President. I'm sorry, members of the board, Dr. Gottardy, executive staff, and guests. Like educators across this nation, the members of the Northeast Education Association applaud the passage of the Every Student Succeeds Act. This act is more than just a step forward and away from high-stakes testing. It's a step to ensuring that all children have the opportunity for a high-quality education regardless of their zip code. Equally important, Democrats and Republicans alike recognize the need to engage teachers and other critical stakeholders in decision-making, and we, the Northeast Education Association, look forward to being part of this process as we work with all of you to ensure that every student in Northeast ISD succeed so that they too are not hindered or left behind by the area they live in. Thank you.
Thank you.
Greg Link.
Good evening. Good evening, and thank you for listening to me. My daughter went to high school at Lee in 2001, and she graduated.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but would you please state your name and your address?
Sure.
Okay.
My name is Greg Link. My daughter began Lee High School in 2001, and she graduated in 2005. My family is very proud of Lee High School. My daughter attended NEISD with children of all backgrounds: white, Hispanic, black, Jewish, Catholic, Protestant. My daughter had parts in fantastic musical productions that we have attended and continue to support. What makes the high school experiment? It is the many friends, the wonderful teachers that support us during this incredible transition to adulthood. The name of the school is mostly irrelevant. When we look back, and we all do, it is hoped that it will be a good experience. If it is a good experience, it is because of the teachers, their support, and the friendships that we develop. Who was Robert E. Lee? He was a skillful general. Lee was top graduate of the military academy and exceptional officer. At the start of the Civil War, Abraham Lincoln asked Lee to provide his many skills to the North and to fight for the Union cause. Instead, Robert E. Lee willfully chose to offer his vast talents to effect the destruction of the Union in order to preserve slavery. What was slavery like? The fears of slave insurrections led to the radical restrictions on gatherings, travel, and of course education. The ignorance of slaves was considered necessary to the security of the slaveholders. By 1836, the public education of all African American students was strictly prohibited. It is not natural for mankind to willingly be made slaves. For slavery to work, the slave must be beaten into submission and kept ignorant. Robert E. Lee waged war to disallow African Americans any public education. Why would you honor this man? Why would you name a school after such a man? Why would you place a statue of Lee at the top of the stairs to greet the black students who attend this lovely high school? Yes, George Washington and Thomas Jefferson owned slaves. They did, and it was wrong. It was shameful. We condemn them for it. But we rightly honor George Washington for the winning of the American independence. George Washington also freed his slaves. He inherited them. We condemn Thomas Jefferson for owning slaves. He also inherited them. It was still wrong. We rightfully honor him for these words. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. Jefferson also advocated the ending of the slave trade, and as president, he criminalized the international slave trade in 1807. Washington, Jefferson, and Lincoln were instrumental in the creation of the United States of America. Lee tried to destroy it. Let's not honor Lee, and let's not ignore Lee. We can't change history, so instead, let's place such ideas as relics in historical museums. Ed White is right. The thing is completely obvious. It needs no further study. All that needs to be done is the right thing and change the name. Lee High School does not deserve the name Robert E. Lee. Let's rename it and join the 21st century. Thank you.
And that's all.
Okay. Next item.
13, discussion and possible action regarding board members' requests for items to be placed on a future agenda and/or requests for reports from the administration.
Thank you, Mrs. Hughey. Do I have a board member who wishes to have an item placed on a future agenda and/or a report from the administration? Okay, seeing none. Next item.
14, adjournment.
Thank you, and the time is 8:12.